And hello, and welcome to the TAC Tools Explained series. My name is Hilda Arteaga, and I am a community manager of the Cisco Community and the host of today's event. So today we're going to talk about the wireless TAC tools that we have and the different tips and tricks just to manage these tools. Before we start, I would like to mention to you that the Cisco Community is an online forum with over 500,000 members where you can get answers to your technical questions prior to opening cases with the TAC. Also, you can make questions or answer many of them and contribute with documents, videos, and blogs that helps others and even yourself. Remember that the Cisco Community can help you to boost your career by becoming a top contributor and getting the technical community to know about your expertise. Well, before we start, I would like to share with you some couple events, information, and activities related to this event that can be of your interest. First of all, we have an Ask Me Anything session following this event. What does this mean? This is actually a forum session where you can clarify your questions related to all these wireless tools that Javier and Shankar are covering. They will have been to answer all your questions till next Friday, February 19. How does this work out? Actually, if you have any questions related to any of the tools that they are going to present today about the deployment, the best practices, but you just think about that question just 1 hour after this event or maybe a couple of days after, then you can post that question on this forum event and they will be helping out to clarify them. Also, if we did not have enough time to verify your question or answer your question, we will be posting it in this forum to validate information, and you will find the answers just right there. All the details that I'm mentioning and all the information is going to be available on the chat panel, which is actually located at the right side of your screen or just on the tiny spheres that are in your mobile device. Also, we would like to invite you to have a look to other support talk events, particularly to the TAC Tools Explained series. You can have a look to all the different tools. We have the recording, we have the FAQ document, the slides. So have a look to the CLI Analyzer, My Devices, the TAC Connect bot, and even the Collaboration Solutions Analyzer. Once again, all the information is going to be on the chat panel, so have a look to them. And we would like to invite you to become an event top contributor. What is this? Just like participating in the Cisco community events and also in the community to be recognized as a top contributor as well. As well, we would like to invite you to become a contributor by rating the content at the Cisco community. Sometimes you find very helpful information just right there. And if you find something that is giving you a hand, don't forget to give it a helpful vote. That helps us out not only to recognize the quality content that is in the community, but also to let people know that they are doing a good job. Imagine that you have a question and that someone gives you the right answer. By giving them an accepted solution, someone in future that has a similar question can find it out very quickly as well. And well, we provide awards and details to people who do that. So let's get started with this event. I would like to introduce you to the experts that are going to join us and explain and drive us through these TAC tools today. I will start with Javier Contreras. He's actually a principal engineer for the Business Enterprise Unit for Wireless and SD-WAN. He's focused on an EMR region, that is Europe, in the last 15 years. He has over 2 decades of experience in the IT industry and networking industry. Previously, he worked in a security consultancy and training. He has been mostly involved in high priority support cases for wireless infrastructures, CCA wireless development, maintenance releases, wireless security testing, and in the lead of wireless express applications. Javier is a Cisco Live Distinguished Speaker and has contributed in the Cisco Press book, Developing and Troubleshooting Wireless Network. He lives in Barcelona, Spain, and he practices Tai Chi Chuan as a hobby. Hi, Javier, and welcome to this event. On the other hand, Shankar Ramanathan, and he's a technical leader in the services for Cisco Unified Wireless Network. He's a Cisco Live Distinguished Speaker, an author and active contributor of the Cisco property and wireless innovation tools such as Wireless Debug Analyzer, Wireless Configuration Converter, and CLI Analyzer, among others. Shankar has over 9 years of industry experience and has delivered several training sessions on unified solutions topics to a wide range of audiences. Prior to joining Cisco, he worked as a wireless network engineer at Elan Technologies, being responsible for RF wireless networking planning and optimization. Shankar holds a Master of Science degree in Electrical Engineering with a specialization in Communication and Silent Processes from the University at Buffalo, and a CCA certification in Enterprise Wireless. Hi, Shankar, and welcome, and thank you so much for joining to this event.
Thanks, Hilda. Hello, everyone.
Thank you very much. And well, if you would like to have a deeper look to all of the information that the experts are going to present today, please have a look. They are already available in the Cisco community. You will find the link on the page as well. Once again, if you have any questions, please, we would like to ask you to use the Q&A panel as well allocated in the right side of your screen or on the tiny spheres if you're in a mobile device. That helps us out to manage the questions just like easier and faster. And if you have any other questions, just like I have no audio or something else, or I want to give a presentation, I want to connect to Javier, please use the chat panel. Remember that Javier and Shankar are actually developers of these tools and creators, so you can learn a lot from them. I'm going to give the microphone and the presenters right to Javier.
People, thank you for coming, and really it's a pleasure to share again a bit of information about the Config Analyzer. This is the main point to access, so CUA Wireless Config Analyzer is where you're going to find the cloud version. We will go a little bit more where else to find. So first of all, what is this tool? What are we going to be doing this? Number one, this is an evolution for the WCAE. This was a tool I wrote for Windows in about 2007. We needed to evolve it to support 9800s, newer AireOS, to be multi-platform. So I modified and created the Config Analyzer Express as a way to simplify access to this tool. And why this tool exists is very simple. I am lazy. I am really, really lazy. I don't want to process 200 controllers to find out exactly which interface is in a wrong IP address. So that's why I started writing the tool, because I needed to process configurations from customers day yes and day every single day. So I wanted to simplify, make it quick. Also, we collected learnings from what was happening on the cases, so we dumped those learnings into the tool to find very well-known configuration errors. As the tool progressed, we received a lot of questions from professional services and customers asking, hey, I want to find this problem in RF. I want to isolate which APs have problems. So we started as well adding a lot of RF analysis and RF state checks to simplify this. It's important that the tool is not super intelligent. The idea is to simplify, make things quick, and highlight issues that you need to look into it. It's not foolproof, but the idea is to be practical, to make things in a lot faster. We have a lot of checks in general topics, RF, mobility, security, flex, and so on. This is a single controller per run time, so you cannot compare controllers. This supports either AireOS or 9800s, so no problem there. Whatever you want to throw at it, it will work. It doesn't have any limitation in terms of models or versions. Anything you throw, it should be able to process, and in general, unless there is some defect that I may have missed. Important, we have two main versions of the Config Analyzer. In fact, we have three. Two are facing towards customers, which is they all run the same underlying engine. They run the same intelligence. It's just one, the cloud, because I cannot throw at you megabytes of results there. It's only going to show you summaries and all of the checks, no details. If you want low-level details per access point on the RF summarization, RF stats, and so on, you need to download a mini desktop that is going to have Excel file with all kinds of ugly details. But in general, for your config validation, finding configuration problems, or just RF summary view, the cloud version, you can use it, no need to install anything, very quick, and you get the job done. So, main ideas. RF data summary. We can see how many APs we have on a particular model, how many APs have with the radius on a particular state. We have the concept of RF health, which was the answer to how the hell I found which one of my 700 supermarkets have an RF problem without traveling all around Australia. That was a real question on a real case. So we needed to find out which of the 700 supermarkets has a problem. So we brought the RF Health as a way to highlight which areas had the most problem without being there, based on the information that RRM is collecting on the controller. Now, the third version of the tool is basically running in TAC. Something we work with Shankar to get it done. Every time you upload a show run or a show take wireless, the tool is actually executed, and this information is pushed into the TAC case so TAC can use it as well. So you have these three versions: TAC, Cloud, and Mini, each one with different kind of results tailored to the front end you may be using. Where I can find the tool, the Cloud version is available on the first link. Now, all of these wireless tools and documentation and all the other support options, the mini desktop version and so on, is available on DevNet, the link you have here. Any questions, features, problems, you can write to the email, which is available as well on the wireless analyzer as a link, and we will receive your feedback. How it looks, this is after you have executed. The main idea is you get all the checks in summarization. You get a summary of how many messages have been found on each level. And here you have a list of different results grouped together. Now, what I can do with this tool, the main thing is I have 5,000 access points. I need to find which one has the problem, which one has like lowest in our clients, which one has a lot of channel changes. This is going to find about it. Config errors, and I'm missing an access list. I have an incorrect web authentication. I forgot to enable the HTTP proxy. Sometimes we see scenarios when we have a case that is being dragging for weeks, and it was because somebody forgot to click one option. And it's just one line in the config. Finding this manually can be super difficult, or just the proverbial needle in the stack. With this, you will find a matter of seconds. We also have validation on current code, which I keep updating, which is the latest recommended code. The code is going to tell you. We have as well a best practices metric, which is similar to what you get on the controller GUI. Of course, the RF summarization. Now, how I should use it? It's important, and that is where we get most of the problems around the tool are about this. The tool supports show run config for AireOS and show take wireless for 9800s. It is super important you only provide this type of files, because that is where we get a collection of your configuration and operational data, both for controller and access point in one go. That is important. We have created these commands to basically, the idea behind it is, okay, let's see how we can, in one single command, we can process 80% of all TAC cases, and we get a very good picture of what things are going around, how things are going. So take this. Don't provide just the config, like a TFTP backup of the configuration, because we cannot work with that. It's not enough. We need these two command outputs. In the case of AireOS, it's very common that if we have a lot of access points, we're going to be missing radio configuration. If you use the transfer upload command, which is described on the DevNet link I mentioned, you can collect the data, and this is going to work most like 100% of the times. Remember, there's a little tip. If you have a super huge file, it's going to take 10 minutes to upload. You can zip it. Normally, this is a text files, which can be reduced quite significantly, can be very well compressed. You can upload the zip file, and it's going to work as well. You can use clear text, or you can zip it, and it's going to work. How to use it? Well, very simple. You go to the link. You will get this kind of the GUI. You can basically take a file and drop on the box. It's going to take a while to upload and process the file, and done. It's basically, normally it takes a few minutes maximum to get the job done. Now, from this link, before we move forward, very, very simple question. How many checks, configuration checks, do you think we have embedded in the tool? Please provide some guess. We're waiting for 1 minute for you to provide the answer. So we got 50% about, more than 200. Yes, we have 284 checks embedded into the tool. So you see these are more than 200 different issues that you can find out in a matter of seconds if you run this. So try to use frequently. So this is how the GUI interface looks. Here you have a menu where you can basically move around. This is just summarization, and here you will get the different results on each one of the sections. You can click the option and then go specifically to the section you are looking to. And it's important, in the case of messages, each one of the checks has a unique number, and the checks have a level. So normally error means it's something very severe that if you don't fix may impact your network. Warning is something that, yes, something that we believe is you should know. You probably should take some action, but it's not going to blow or kill your dog. In information, here is a collection of different data. Here we put best practices. We will put just sometimes some checks are done to know that a particular feature is enabled, for example, AP groups. Why? Because having that feature enabled will modify how you interpret some of the debugging data. So these levels are important. So error means, hey, you should look into it, unless you're doing this on purpose. Warning, hey, you may survive with this. It's just, but it's important to look into. For information, it's just that. We're just telling something that you should be aware, and you may perfectly move your life without there. It's not going to break anything, but sometimes it's better if you do. You pay attention. AP messages are grouped exactly the same. The same color, same format, so we follow the same rules. In the case of RF stats, here what we try to do, we have 3 levels of summarization, which means at controller level, per flex group or flex tag, and per AP group on AP tag, depending if you're running AireOS or 9800s. The idea is if you have broken your network using AP groups or tags or flex groups, that will basically enable to see per area what's going on. So this summarization will be done automatically for you. You have a lot of data, as you see, depending on which devices we are seeing, or, for example, errors that we may find typically. Let me show you next slide. Here we put summarization of quick RF issues. So, for example, how many radios have a high co-channel interference, how many radios have poor coverage, meaning they don't have any neighbor in a close enough that probably will have problems when the clients are roaming around, how many radios have noise or load profile fails, or, for example, a problem we have seen in some areas that were exposed to radar sources, if you have a radio that is doing more than 10 channels per day. Each one of these items, you just put your mouse on top of it, you will get a little quick help, as you see here. We also try to put summarization of clients, which clients are good or bad SNR, with the threshold being 20 as SNR. So you can find, if you have, for example, your network flex group, and your flex group represent, let's say, 200 offices, you will see quickly how bad or good is a particular office in terms of client association, in terms of common RF problems, without having to manually check AP by AP and then group by area. In the case of RF health, here the behavior is fairly different. What we have here is I took several RF metrics like interference, co-channels, so how close the APs are to each other, clean air devices, and I translate those metrics into a 0 to 100 score. So, for example, if you got clean air interference detected device, which is running on a duty cycle of 60, that has an RSSI of -60, -70, most people will not have a clue. What the hell is this? Is this bad? Is this good? Is it going to kill me? Should I do anything? What I do is I take those RF metrics and I translate into a health score. 100 means you're perfectly well. 0 means you're dead. So we convert each one of those values, and it generates a number. That way you can, for example, see if you have a code channel problem, which is most common in 2.4 because APs are too close and you only have 3 channels. You can see if your RF design is incorrect, or you can see if your RF interference is causing problems. So it's going to be translated here. So each one of these metrics, as you see, is explained. And the idea is that I take that data and I translate for you into a health score. In this screen, what we see is a summarization per, on this level, for example, at the controller level or per AP group or flex group, how many APs are on a low, medium, or high scale. So that way you can know if a particular group is suffering for something. And then for each one of these metrics, I'm going to pick the worst metric, and that's going to be your overall score for that particular summarization level, which can be, or can be an AP group, can be a controller. If you want to see the individual AP names and the individual AP scores, you need to use the desktop version, because otherwise it's a huge amount of data that is summarized here in just one screen. But if you want details, use desktop. If you want to get just a summary, this is the way to go. And these numbers you see here represent how many APs are in this particular level for this particular RF health metric. Each one of these metrics represents a different RF representation. So, for example, code channel, they will talk about how close the APs are to each other and how much they are impacting the activity. I may have a neighbor which is on -80, which is not doing me much, but if my neighbor is on -50, it's going to be a big impact. If that AP at the same time has a high activity in terms of our channel utilization, client counts, it's going to be a huge impact. If this my neighbor is on -70 and has a power level of 7, well, the impact it's going to give me is very small. So I don't care too much. So these two metrics will take into consideration how far is the AP to me as an AP I'm calculating. So how far is the AP, what is the power level, how many clients, what is the channel utilization, and we'll translate this into RF value 0 to 100, and that's the metric. We have, for example, noise on same as well. Noise is converted into a metric. I have a lot of channel noise out there or not. This also is able to look into channel bonding. So I may be operating on my primary on channel 60, but I have noise on my 64. The tool will also gather that information. Same applies to 2.4. If I have channel 1, channel 2, and so on, the tool will understand correctly the channel distance and apply this to your current channel. We have the same here, interference for how it's impacting me, lowest in our clients. This is only for APs that have more than 5 clients attached, and we want to detect if there is a low SNR, which meaning a coverage problem, RF utilization, the radio utilization to see if the channel is very, very busy, and then the clean airs, which is when we translate this RSSI and duty cycle into a single score, so you make it easier for you to understand. Okay, moving forward. The desktop version is very similar. You will get if you download from the DevNet link, you will get a mini application where you can select the file and get it run, and you will get an Excel file where you can get you can see all of the results, and more specifically, it will run the same checks as the cloud, just you will get all of the details per AP. We support Mac and Windows, so it's multi-platform, and this is more or less how it looks in order to do the processing. Okay, this is some of the stuff you will get. There are a lot of more reports available in the desktop. Some of them were needed by our development or our professional services. So you will see there a lot of summarizations done on the RRM or RF area. So take a look. And also we have special things like this, which is it is able to see this is special for 9800s, but you can get the combination of your the WLAN profile, your tags, and which are the AP list. So you can see actually the combination of these 3 things together, and you can see how they are applied. And if any of them is missing a component, it will basically flag it out. So it's a visual representation of the complete profile combinations that you have in 9800s that is available on, that is going to be actually applied to the device. Okay, I will give you a quick demo to see how quick this can be. So this is 1 second. Oh, close the. I'm sorry. Close the. This is the cloud version, and I will just upload here one file I have available that I did there. This is a zip version, so it's going to be pretty fast. Now it's uploaded. It's going to be processing, and there you are. So this is how things look, and here we can see the whole set of messages that we're generating at the controller level. We see, for example, these are the messages at the AP levels, and here we can get all, for example, these are an example of 42 access points. We can get here the complete set of RF metrics, how things are looking. This network was very okay. We can see the power distribution, the channels which are in use, how many clients we get there, and the power level distribution across this area. And the same as explained, the same information is available at the controller level, then an AP group level, and then on the flex group, if there are any. That allows that if you have your network split per these logical entities, you will be able to get a lot of information per each one of the AP groups you have defined. That can be super helpful when you're working. In the case of RF health, we have the same as explained before. We see how the APs are distributed. This is a network which is fairly healthy in both in 5 and 2 gigahertz, so it looks pretty well. No areas which are broken. And you got a lot of smaller scenarios where regarding which models, which mode, and things are summarized. Good. I hand over this now to Shankar. Thank you, people, and I will be answering your questions from now and until next week. Thank you, guys.
Following Javier's wireless config analyzer, we'll be just talking about another popular wireless tool, namely wireless config converter. This tool per se has a unique distinction in the sense it's one of the, as far as I understand, only or one of the few TAC tools that actually is both BU and TAC supported, in the sense that you can actually open a TAC case on the 9800 config conversion on this, because this conversion logic also exists natively as a feature in the product. So it's actually an official supported tool and also listed in the deployment guide. On this conversion topic, because there's a lot of migration happening on wireless platforms, there are a lot of trivial questions in this, and this question I'd like to poll in the sense if you are converting or migrating an AireOS configuration to Catalyst 9800 using the config converter tool, can you just take the converted output from the config converter tool and apply it to your Catalyst 9800 configuration? So that's the question. Please do use the poll to answer this question. It will be interesting to understand how we can perceive this config converter tool with that. So I'll give a couple, like 40 seconds on this. Let's see if we can. Majority of you answered that we should be able to directly upload the configuration, converted config into the 9800 tool. The answer is actually false. There is actually no scenario in which you can directly upload a converted config into a 9800 controller without actually validating the control config. And that's why we'll be going over some of the validation steps that a user needs to perform before actually plugging in the configuration into specifically the 9800 or any controller platform migration per se. So let's start with a little background on the tool. The tool was originally put in 2016 during the NGWC converged access timeframe, where people needed help migrating from AireOS to the converged access. And as fate would have it, then we had to reverse engineer the tool from converged access into AireOS platforms. And given now that the AireOS platforms have officially been end of life. Catalyst 9800 is the future. So AireOS to Catalyst 9800 would be the long-lasting or the supported version of the config converter tool. The rest of the conversion schemes you see are not complete, and there is no plans to enhance them, and they are supported as is or in best effort basis. The tool's goal has almost exclusively moved into supporting AireOS to 9800 migration. So one of the first, since this tool has been used, almost every month, there's not a month that goes by without this issue. And that's why I'm actually highlighting the input here. The input that is required for Javier's tool on the config analyzer is the one highlighted in yellow, show run config, which is a completely different output when you as compared to what is an input required for this config conversion. So you need to feed the TFTP backup config or the show run config startup commands, which you should be able to get either via CLI or GUI, which is completely different from the show run config command, which is a more of a disorganized list of configuration command that AireOS prints on that value. So it's important to note that if you don't feed this input, you will see that tool returns no output, and that's one of the most common questions, unfortunately, on why there's no conversion happening. So it's not rocket science to figure the tool. You can just upload the file on a place where it says go ahead and upload, and you choose the converter type, and you grab that configuration file from the AireOS and choose the AireOS to Catalyst 9800 and run the converter. Now, it's important to understand what are the various fields that the converted output actually shows. So there is like translated output, unmapped output, unsupported, and not applicable. Translated config means that we have successfully been able to translate a single line or multiple lines of AireOS commands into logical sequence of iOS XE commands. This not necessarily means that it is directly portable. It means that it has been translated, but you would be able to port it. You'll still need to review that. The unsupported config are the ones that are supported on AireOS but not supported on 9800 controllers. So those are also key features to identify. Not applicable are the ones that are absolutely obsolete or deprecated, and they are no longer relevant to Catalyst 9800 controllers, so they will not be migrated ever. One of the key features to pay attention to is the unmapped config. There are several questions we get, like, hey, what happened to this piece of the configuration? Like where is my policy tags, or where is my RF tag based on my RF grouping on the AireOS controllers? The unmapped config basically will tell you what exactly is are the pieces of AireOS configuration that 9800 supports but is not ready yet, or the migration tool is not ready yet to translate that, either due to a dependency or due to an enhancement request. So this is important because this is why the online or the CWay version of the WLC config converter becomes important to use, because almost on a bi-weekly basis, fixes get into the cloud version of the tool, and what is available natively on the platform on the 9800 controller or on the DNA center, they are release dependent. Depending on the release you are in, it would have gotten hold of that version of the fixes, and and there will be example, the learnings from several bugs or migrations that have gone into fixes on the cloud tool. It will take a while until the next release to get into those tools, and that's why if you are converting a configuration, always use the cloud tool, because that is going to give you the latest list of migrated config and fixes on several nuances that in the past have even locked the boxes or caused issues post-upgrade. So There are several methods of migrating the configuration. What I'm going to discuss is just one single method, or the BU tested method of migrating the configuration, and this often is ignored. Often people copy the configuration or the converted configuration and paste it directly in CLI. There are two disadvantages to that. One, depending on the terminal server, you could miss out on a line. And number two, the translated config not necessarily can appear in sequence. Based on how AireOS config lines appear, the sequence will come exactly on that format. So there might be a case wherein a command execution might have a dependency on another line that comes in later and could error out due to that process. So the best practice way of migrating the config is to download the CFG file from the config converter tool, upload it to the boot flash on the 9800, and copy that file, that boot flash file, to the running config. Obviously, a step before this is to make sure that you are validating the configuration, what you're seeing on the 9800 config conversion. So again, this method of copying the configuration file into boot flash and applying it to run config, this basically eliminates the line errors and also the alignment errors of wherein missed config lines could cause errors on other configurations from getting applied. So this is to avoid that. And I'll briefly cover for non-9800 migration topics, because there are still cases where we get on like a 2504 to 3504 or 5508 to like the 5520 or 8540 platforms. There is no specific configuration migration per se. It is just basically that there is a port check and an encryption check, which we cannot directly migrate. So that again, in these platforms also, what we will highlight is where are the errors happening, and depending on the errors, we'll highlight where the manual intervention is going to take. So there cannot be like a place where we can understand what would be the encryption password or the shared secret of Radius, and that has to have these manual interventions happen. And with respect to migration on converged access, if you are still on that, only WLAN migrations are supported, no plans to support anything else on that. So with that said, I'll quickly jump into a demo. All right. So typically from an AireOS file, you would be taking the configuration backup like this, and you should be able to upload it and bring the file in. This is the file we would typically need as inputs, or the show run config startup commands. I'll just upload one and choose AireOS to Catalyst 9800. All right. So once it's done, you should see that you should be able to download it as both CSV and as a CFG file, which should be able to plug it in after edits into your boot flash of the 9800 controller. So let's take a look at this translated config, and this is again missed. And on the tool, one of the most important part that is missed is the details, where you also have the best practice on how to migrate the 9800 config and how to upload it to boot flash and the procedure for that. This is collapsed by default, but again, it also talks about the best practice. So on the translated config, anything with this prefix, the exclamation $ it's basically indicating that it needs your action, and which is why on the polling question, if you're answered true that yes, you can directly migrate, you can never actually have that migration, because you will have to manually edit out these Radius shared secret or encryption config on WLAN, anything that is there. And there is also the exclamation %, which basically is telling you that, hey, we see that you have configured something in AireOS, so here is a configuration example. You would need to manually execute on this and basically say yes or no on this so that it can get migrated separately. So this is another configuration method that also gets missed. And when you plug it in directly, you would assume that this feature has migrated, or it might be partially migrated, which again can lead to issues. And that's why always there is a user intervention that is required to validate whether your configuration, what has migrated. You can also look at your AP groups. I mean, some of you may be familiar that the at 9800 configuration model is not literally a one-on-one mapping to what an AireOS used to do. So the concept of AP groups will basically go as policy tags. So you would see that some of these in earlier versions of the tool, like 16.10 versions and all that stuff, these translations might not be available. So right now, all these cloud changes will bring all these translations of AP group into policy tags, flex groups into the flex profiles, and still you would see an element of configuration missing, and that's where you will be consulting the unmapped config. So let me get to here. Let me collapse this out. And once you're done with translated, you can also view the unsupported config on what is not going to be supported on 9800 per se, or what commands are not going to be brought in. These are layer 2 ROM parameters, which actually don't even, which are like old CCX version commands, which are not supported on 9800, like not applicable config. Again, like there might be a port dependency or AireOS specific dependency here, and unmapped config, which is basically telling you that these are commands that are supported, but we don't have a mapping figured out yet. And as you can see, some of the RF commands, there is still, based on the configuration, there might not be enough clarity on what exactly is the RF tag or RF profile that the current global RF settings are translating to. So you would see that several of them will be in RRM RF range, which again will require user intervention to either manually enable or translate these configurations. So these are the pieces of unmapped configuration which actually get missed, and once you are in your CLI, you basically can copy the file into the run config, hit enter, and that should pretty much migrate your configuration. And though it's okay to just do that, sometimes it's basically best practice to make sure that you always reload a controller after the configuration has taken place, config migration has taken place, so that the new config changes are in sync. So that was a quick high-level demo on some of this, and I'll just quickly also show like what the current converged access migration looks like. It will, if you upload a converged access file, you would be getting a literal AireOS WLAN translation for that. That's pretty much what is there. The rest of the configurations were originally planned, but now are deprioritized. So the simple task there. And similarly, if you look into the AireOS to the newer the 5520 migration platforms, you would see that we would be highlighting some of the encryption config. Let me just quickly show that. So all these encrypt config, they are not directly migratable. They would need to be manually changed and then plugged in as configuration files. So per se, just from AireOS to AireOS platforms, all you need to take care of is encryption, anything with the keyword encryption, and anything with the keyword port, because your port might not match based on the number of ports or lag interfaces you're using. So those always will require user intervention. So with that said, I'm done with the config converter. I'll speak real brief on the wireless debug analyzer. This actually is one of the most used CVA tools apart from the collaboration solutions analyzer. And one of the most popular questions on that is, when is 9800 debugs going to be put? So just a background, this tool currently just supports the debug client MAC address of AireOS clients. The tool basically organizes the debugs in several connection attempts, making it easier to interpret data. It also has like a listing of all the backend code mappings or status codes, disconnection codes, and reject reasons that actually map directly to translation. So not only do you get the status code, but also the translation of why your client got disconnected at that specific instance. The Catalyst 9800 support, the backend is ready. We already have the tool usable internally, and we are currently working with IT team to externalize the tool. And without going into a lot of processes, it takes a while to integrate new support into another tool and go through an IT process for this. So we are hopeful that by end of Q3, we should be able to add 9800 RA traces and conditional debugging logs to be processed on this tool. Obviously, AireOS, the input file is debug client followed by multiple MAC addresses, and you can have as many MAC addresses as the tool supports and as the controller supports, and we should be able to split the MAC addresses and show a more holistic view. So one view of that would be, already uploaded a debug here, and we'll go ahead and parse it. So quick tip on the tool, so you can do the show all, and that will actually give you all the connection detail, connection attempts on this. So on the connection, as you can see, for you should be, sometimes you will not see an output render. That's primarily because there might be a print in your debugs that might have missed the MAC address. So definitely like open this drop down to make sure that you are selecting the desired MAC address, or check how many MAC addresses it has tracked, because several times we think that we have just enabled debug for one, and maybe there's a leak of another client or something that is getting tracked. So the simplest way is interpretation of some of the status codes on how the data is getting translated, and also where the retries happen, and client not, in this instance, client not responding to M2, and there's a deauthentication and a new association initiated. So always a roaming will go in as a roaming, as a reassociation, and not as a new association. So you could see some of those values being highlighted there. So that's without going into details on what debugs, this is obviously to make the lives of processing debugs easy, and hopefully this helps with the Catalyst 9800 platforms too. With that, I think my demo is done. We can quickly jump into the Q&A topics.
Hi, Shankar. Thank you very much for the presentation, and also thank you very much, Javier, for the presentation. And I also would like to thank the audience. Without you, these events wouldn't be possible. So yes, we do have a couple of couple of questions that I would like to share with you. This is when Javier was talking about the first tool, and he said, like, you mentioned in large infrastructure, how is the cloud option scaled to receive large configurations, which include thousands of access points?
Yes, there's not a problem. the tool has an execution time maximum of 10 minutes, and I have tested the tool with files of 220 megabytes, which goes about 10 or something megabytes. The largest problem is the upload time, but you can upload fairly large. The tool itself doesn't have any limit. It will run as much memory as possible and get executed. So unless you have something like extremely large, it should work. Remember to use the files on zip, so it makes life a lot easier.
Javier, there's also another question where you were presenting the wireless configuration analyzer express, and I didn't mention is this similar to health scores in DNA?
No, we have worked together with the DNA people, and there is more collaboration that's going to happen in the future regarding the RF health scores. I participated as well on the design of some of the initial DNA scenarios, but it's different. So these are very, very, very Wi-Fi centric, and they. Remember, in the tool, we are working with the snapshots. The show run config or the show take wireless is a picture of your network, and we work only with the picture it's giving us. In the case of DNAC, it's working with a movie. It's working with data streams over time. So what you can do is completely different, and it's a very different approach. Additionally, DNAC is a complete management platform. This tool is only oriented for specific troubleshooting. Nevertheless, some of the RF health stuff we have been working, they are being studied by DNAC, and there's going to be some additional collaboration moving forward, as you will see.
Thank you very much, Javier. And there's another question that we actually have for you, Shankar, and I also have shared with you on the chat. So there's a configuration migration possible from AireOS to C9300 SDA.
Okay, so what the config converter helps convert is the wireless portion of the configuration. Per se, if you have an AireOS part of SDA or Fabric, you could use that converter tool, and I have not personally tested how many pieces of the Fabric SSID is getting translated today. Those WLAN mappings will get directly translated, but in terms of the Lisp mapping, please check that the unmapped or unsupported section in case anything gets listed there. The primary goal is basically the wireless config conversion. So majority piece of where the 9800 was, you would be able to convert those, but the Fabric piece alone, that would need to be like validated personally. So I wouldn't personally like I suggested, even for regular 9800, you need to validate the configuration. So I would suggest the same on that.
All right, thank you very much, Shankar. I have another one, and this is also goes for Javier, and they're actually thanking you for evolving this tool over the years, and they're asking if graphics will be coming in the iOS XI tool.
Yeah, there is some plans to add RF graph and graphical representation on the Excel file. That is not on the cloud version, but on mini desktop. There are plans to add some of those organizations graphical representation over there.
Great, thank you. And there's another question, and this could go for like any of you, and I'm placing that one on the chat as well. So is there a way for us to see how the access point is viewing the others? That is, like, if I'm looking to the CCIE and the ACIE, for example?
The way that they see each other is through the NDP, so then the Network Discovery Protocol. So they are sending these frames on a regular basis, which are detected by the other AP. So the idea is, in the normal way, is APs are doing channel scan every X number of milliseconds, which depend on which band and how many channels you set to scan, and the period that you configure for the RRM scan timer. And they're going to move into the next channel, and they're going to send the NDP frame there, which is going to be received by the APs which are residing on that channel. Because we know on which power the NDP was sent, we know what is the path loss. it gives us an understanding of how far is that AP from myself, on which channel it is operating, and if it's a known AP in my RF domain, my mobility network. So yes, that's the way that AP see each other.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Shankar and Javier. Due to the time, we're going to close down this live Q&A. Remember that if we did not have a chance to cover your question just during the session, or if you have extra questions, you can ask them in the forum event. It's going to be available till next Friday, 19th. And well, if you are looking for further events like this one, and you would like to find more about the upcoming support talks, just have a look to our Twitter, Facebook, and other social media accounts such as YouTube, LinkedIn, and even the application. There you can find more information. And also, if you are looking for other events related not only to the support tools that Cisco offers, but also to the other architecture and technologies, you can find more on the Cisco community. We have a huge variety of events. Thank you, everyone, for joining us to this session, and really high and very good thank you to Javier and to Shankar, who has provided an excellent session of these very valuable tools. Remember that you are going to have a survey that is coming out to you. Please help us out to answer it. It helps us out to see how we are doing, and also please let us know what kind of topics you would like to see in upcoming events. Once again, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we shall meet you in the next support talks. Thanks, Javier, Shankar, and thank you to all the audience.
Thank you, people.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.